Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Rusif and I am going to be doing some code discussion and game updates today. So, for those who are keeping up, we released JRealm 0.3.1 and the initial release of the data service about 2 weeks ago. I've been working on the game, updating it in the background. Haven't been doing any live coding sessions because I've been busy with work and some other fun stuff. So, right, keep in mind this is just a fun side project, something to keep us entertained. But I do want to go over what I have been working on because it's a lot of fun new gameplay features and other code changes that make the game a little bit easier to work with, especially if you're going to be modifying the source yourself to add custom items and other fun stuff like that. So let's go ahead and get into what we've been working on. So first thing on our list is we now have remote loading for the game data. Currently that was distributed with the client. And now because we have our data service, which has a HTTP server in it, we could actually rework that to host the data assets over on the server and just make a request to get them when the data service starts up. So we have a switch that's passed to each of these load methods that's going to say, hey, if we're tasked with going to load this remotely, go and execute a GET request to that asset. And just so we can see what exactly is going on here, right? If I go into a browser and go to localhost 8085/that, I do in fact get all the class data that we need to load. So that's all that is going on here. We just have a switch for each of these, which is going to allow it to be loaded remotely. I did the same thing with the images or the sprite sheets, and they're still working through a few things with that. So I've left it out of this release for now, but that's coming in the future. So the images for the UI and the fonts and stuff are still on both the server and the client. Well, I guess they don't really need to be on the data service. When I mean server, when I say server, I mean the data service. They don't really need to be there, but anyways, they're there for now. So the reason for that was primarily just to reduce the number of assets that are packaged and to make it so I don't have to go update them in both places, both JRealm as well as the data service when I'm making changes. So now you change it in one place over in the data service, and that is populated at runtime by the client. So that's what's going on there. Another fun thing we've added is loot tables and loot groups. I think I had a comment somewhere in here about rewriting this. It's been in there forever, but oh yeah, here it is. So now I finally actually implemented that right here. So what's going on there is we have two new game data structures. We have loot table and loot groups. We'll start with the loot groups first because these are a logical grouping of items, right? So if you think like with a specific armor, armor for class, or like the heavy armor versus robes, right? We'd probably want to group those by their tier. So essentially I took like all the weapons, put them into, so this is all the tier 0 weapons, tier 1 through 14, same thing with the armors, and that's just a way to have different tier enemies drop like a group of tiered loot. Because originally the way I was doing this was to actually have an individual array of what items an enemy could drop, and it was just getting too clustered. So I came up with a fun naming scheme that allows me to sort of drop groups as well as individual items for enemies. So this is the loot tables JSON, which says for enemy ID 1, when he dies, he has a 40% chance to drop Group 0, Group 1, 16, all these, as well as this untiered item, which is actually the amulet, which we'll get to in a second. That's another feature I've implemented with this release, which is a fun little throwback to the game this is based on, which is Realm of the Mad God. And amulets have been out of that game for years. It's a really great feature, I thought. But they removed them. They said it was against the spirit of the game. So I've added them back because I love them. So they're a bear drop, 5% chance from all the enemies currently. This is kind of just for testing. You can, of course, modify these to your liking if you run the game yourself. we will see a demo of that here in a sec. So I've also done, well, what I want to be sort of I've been thinking about the final state of what I want the game to look like, and meaning how it's playable, and I want to rework it to be a little more like Diablo style dungeon crawling, right, where you start off on the highest level where the easiest enemies and you progress deeper, sort of down to see changing environments, changing enemies, better loot, right? I'm thinking I'll do multipliers of some sort like that, right? And that's going to differentiate it a little bit from the game this is based on, which is going to avoid, any direct copyright stuff. So that's something that's in the works. We'll also see that in the demo here in a sec. We've got 3 floors right now, and they're populated by different enemies, which are a little bit more difficult and give a little bit more experience each time you go deeper. And some other little tidbits that we've added are we've added a ping endpoint on the data service that essentially says, hey, I am up. No, not that one. Here we go. Ping just returns a date and status up. And the way that it's used is in the game launcher. We actually, one of the first step we do is make sure we can execute a ping. And if we are not able to get a ping response back, then we are going to throw a fatal exception and force the game to exit. So you now won't get in a state where you think your game should be starting, but you really just aren't running JROM data, or you don't have a connection to the server because it's down, not running, or your networking is set up incorrectly. So that's just a little feature that makes running it a little easier. If you're debugging, you'll get an explicit message saying, hey, we were not able to connect. So that is that for code changes. And the rest of these I'll talk about while I start doing the demo here. So here's my paladin. It's fun. He's got healing buff, which is going to double your vitality, increase it by 1.5. So you essentially get a healing factor, right? It's going to double the amount you heal per tick. And you can see the loot tables that I've set up to have, I think it's tier 13 and 14 armor, and then potions and some other goodies. The amulet, obviously, maybe we'll get to see in a white bag here. Oh, there you go. Speaking of, yeah, that's our beautiful amulet. So I have a bunch right now, so I don't exactly need more, but okay, yeah, maybe need to crank that down a little bit. Spawn rate's a little too high for such a rare item. Okay, cool. So we're gonna go down to the next layer here. Yeah, you can see already a whole lot more shot action going on. I've got really high defense, but I'm still gonna be taking some damage here, and you can see the performance is pretty good with all the changes I've been working on. And what we're gonna see, I want to die here so I can demo the amulet. I'm just getting mobbed. Okay, cool. So what we should see here, so with the amulets being added, this is the functional demo. My amulet's going to be removed, but my character will not be deleted. So when I respawn, I'm going to go up to the top level without my amulet. So we could just put on a new one and continue on our merry way. And do we know, okay, so I was over here. Yeah, here it is. All right, so we're going to go back down. And let's see about getting down to that next level. Yeah, honestly, I should put the beach at the top. Yes, and then probably, oh, okay, cool. So this is the last floor. This just has all the bosses. This is only bosses on this floor, so it's quite difficult to survive. This is some nice ambiance here. Got these little rocks. Nice cave ambiance. I like how this level looks. Kind of wet, damp cave. It's pretty cool. So if I cannot die, I'm just getting grilled. And for some reason, my health is not saving. Okay, so we have an issue here. We just found a bug, but we'll go over that later. So that's about it for the demo. Let's see. What did we cover everything there? Yeah, fixed a bunch of bugs, which I'm not going to go over explicitly. Let's see. So yeah, one of the things I am thinking about doing, and I know I trashed on it before, but using an existing game engine for your client. So obviously we're good developers, well, hopefully, and we built our server and our game client separately. For anyone who's followed the project, the game client is built in Java with just the auth library. So that's like the lowest form of graphics manipulation you can do in Java. It provides you the tools to build, essentially just draw shapes on the screen, and you got to figure out what to do on top of that. So that was a big mistake. Java auth's terrible. It's terrible for UIs, and there's a reason nobody builds apps, UI apps in Java. So what are we going to do about this? I got two options that I'm looking at right now. Obviously, we're not touching Unity. Unity's cancer. We've got Godot, or Godot, however you pronounce it. It's one I've heard that's really great. We obviously don't need to rewrite the server. The server's fine. And because we've written a nice TCP packet protocol, it's very easy to just rewrite that stuff in any language that supports it. So my first option is probably going to be to rewrite it in Swing, which is like the one level higher than Java auth for graphics, right? You get stuff like buttons built in. You can still draw custom shapes and everything, but you can get like frames and stuff and containers and components that are a little bit easier to work with. But yeah, essentially I am starting to become relatively limited by the Java client. It's just hard. It's extremely hard to add new features. Like even animations are just the biggest pain to do. It's crazy how hard like doing something so simple should be, and that's because it's all from scratch. So can't really complain about that, but it's unfortunate. Let's see here. So yeah, I'm thinking Swing. Yeah, and the only issue is it's going to take a little bit of time to rewrite it. So I'm not really pushing that right now. Kind of just trying to focus on other features, like right, really simple thing I'd love to do, put it like a nice shadow behind the terrain. It's kind of hard to see, where the trees and stuff that you can actually run into are. That'd be a really simple thing to add in like just about every client, except I chose Java, and yeah, it came back to bite me. So that happens, and we're just going to have to work through it. So we will keep going. The last thing I wanted to talk about in terms of the sprites and the game items, the animations, all this graphical stuff. So obviously anyone who's followed knows that I based this all off of Realm of the Mad Gods old sprites. I think they use new sprites now, but I'm sure they still own the rights to these older assets. And while that's not normally a huge issue, if they use them in, if they use them, in their game previously, but they don't anymore. Unfortunately, that's the old owner. Deca are big assholes when it comes to DMCAing people who sort of take the concept of their game and do whatever. I know at least a few instances where that has happened, so got to be careful here if I ever want to release this publicly, for money, and not have it be open source, I think. So the biggest thing we're going to be doing, and I'm talking with some friends who are a little more versed in the generative AI sort of utility functions of AI, and what we're going to be looking to do is feed all of the data for these items and the sprite sheets themselves into some sort of algorithm that's going to spit out a completely unique version of them that preserves the look and feel, but redesigns all the sprites. Changes their pixels, their colors, their arrangements, even their stats probably, but keeps it balanced and doesn't introduce any really anything different other than just making it look fully unique. That's kind of the thing we got to get to, is having this be unique assets, because right now they are technically ripped, which is not a problem because I'm not charging for the game and not hosting it myself, but in the future we got to be forward looking. So that's the plan there. And Yeah, I gotta fix that bug before I do that release, huh? I thought I fixed that with the saving. Yeah, well, I'll probably do that on a coding session, but yeah, well, that's gonna be it. This release might be coming up by the end of the day, assuming I'll fix this bug, so look for it on the GitHub. It should be there. And oh yeah, love the crystal sword. Penetrating, good stuff. Yeah, I don't know why my health's getting... Yeah, anyways. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.